Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to dive into this one with you. We're going to explore something that is fundamentally shifting the entire landscape of digital creation, and that is making video games from scratch using modern AI tools. Now, if you've got a kid at home who is absolutely obsessed with video games, or hey, maybe you've always wanted to make one yourself, you've probably thought you'd need to wait years just to learn the basics of programming. But today, we're going to see how anyone, literally kids sitting at the kitchen table making their very first game, can go from a totally blank slate to a fully playable experience. Okay, let's dive into this. What if I told you that you could build a complete, genuinely playable game in under an hour without writing a single line of code? Just a few years ago, right, this sounded like pure science fiction. Game development was this notoriously steep mountain to climb. But based on the experiences of several incredible creators who've been documenting their journeys, this isn't some futuristic dream anymore. It's a reality, and it's something you can jump into right now. To really appreciate how wild this is, we have to contrast the old paradigm with the new one. The old way of making games. It demanded years of coding experience, super complex syntax, really expensive software, and honestly, usually a computer science degree. The barrier to entry was just massive. But in this new era, we're relying on AI prompts, iterative logic, and rapid prototyping. Natural, everyday language has literally replaced complex code syntax. And this is exactly why kids can now jump in and make their first game. They don't need to learn JavaScript or C++. They just need to describe the game they want to see. It's essentially just having a conversation with an AI. So here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. 1. No code, no problem. 2. Building the core mechanics. 3. Generating worlds and assets. 4. Sound, music, and polish. And 5. AI limits and the human touch. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, No Code, No Problem. Welcome to the new era of game development. We're going to follow the journeys of 3 really distinct creators from our source material today: Mikey No Code, Dog's Dream, and Matt Wolf. They all approached AI game dev a bit differently, but they all proved one massive point. You can completely bypass traditional game engine setups. Creators like Mikey No Code are showing us that AI now handles the heavy lifting of engine setup for you. There are no massive, complicated manual installs anymore. Your ideas go straight from your brain to a working prototype just by typing plain English into tools like Base44. And honestly, the most exciting part, especially if you're a young creator wanting to show off your work at school, is that you can publish the finished game directly to the web with a simple URL. No bulky downloads, just pure creation. Moving right along to Section 2, Building the Core Mechanics. Iteration really is the new programming. Now, what's really interesting here is how the AI actually builds out the gameplay. Because you aren't writing code, your job shifts. You act more like a director, layering logic one piece at a time. Take Mikey No Code's exact process for building a Flappy Bird-style web game. You start with step 1, base mechanics. You just ask the AI for simple movement and physics. Once the character tilts and falls correctly, then you move to step 2, fixing the UI so the score looks right. You don't try to build the whole game at once. Then, step 3, you ask the AI to generate random obstacles to create tension so players can't just rely on muscle memory. Finally, step 4 adds power-ups, giving the player these brief moments of momentum. This layered, block-by-block approach is so incredibly intuitive, especially for kids to grasp. You build the foundation, and then you decorate the house. But what happens when things break? Because, spoiler alert, they absolutely will. That brings us to iterative prompting. Creator Matt Wolf used a tool called Claude Code to build a game called Library Survivors, which is such a hilarious concept, by the way. You play as a librarian desperately putting away books while rowdy kids run around, causing this chaos meter to spike. Now, Matt didn't know how to code, so when the kids in the game wouldn't spawn right or the player could just walk right through a solid bookshelf, he literally just copied the red errors from the computer console, pasted them back into Claude Code, and basically said, "Hey, this is broken, fix it." The AI read the error, explained the fix, and updated the game. You are literally problem-solving through conversation. Let's pivot over to Section 3, Generating Worlds and Assets. It is time to talk AI visual generation. Having working mechanics is great, but let's be real, staring at a bunch of gray rectangles isn't very engaging. Creators are using this amazing mix-and-match buffet of visual tools to bring their ideas to life. And this breakdown brilliantly illustrates the specific tech stack they're using so you don't get overwhelmed. This is where flat logic transforms into something a kid can truly be proud to show off. For 2D sprites like cozy 16-bit retro characters and library floors, Matt Wolf used Leonardo AI.
For complex 3D character models, Dog's Dreams used a tool called Meshy AI, and to get that initial inspiring concept art to feed into the 3D generators, Midjourney was the absolute go-to. It is a completely modular approach to art direction. And guys, the speed at which these visual tools are evolving is just staggering. Consider the evolution of Meshy AI, which Dog's Dream pointed out. Just 10 months ago, the 3D models it pumped out looked like early, messy, unpolished prototypes. Fast forward to today, the exact same tool is generating highly detailed 3D undead knights and terrifying mythical monsters straight from a simple text prompt. The tech is advancing so fast that the assets you can drop into your game right now are light years ahead of what was possible just last year.
Which brings us to Section 4, Sound, Music, and Polish. Let's make this thing actually feel alive.
Visuals are really only half the sensory experience, right? Audio design in a game works like a snowball effect. You start super small with UI interaction sounds, just the basic clicks and menu selections. Then you add collision and action feedback, like a really satisfying thud when you drop a book on a shelf, or a bright ding when you score a point. Next, you bring in generative background music to set the whole mood. And finally, you can even add AI voiceover lines to give your characters real personality. Without this layer, I promise you, even the most gorgeous game feels completely static and dead. And where are they getting all these amazing sounds? From AI audio tools, of course. Matt Wolf used Suno AI to generate these perfectly relaxing, lo-fi retro background loops for his library game. Dog's Dream used 11 Labs to generate sword clashes, enemy grunts, and even a specific, totally custom voice line for his main character saying, "Wonder what this guy did before dying to get this ugly in the afterlife." Meanwhile, Mikey No Code used Base 44 to auto-generate wing flaps and collision dings right there in the engine. Sound completely transforms a basic button press into an actual emotional response. Finally, let's hit Section 5, AI limits and the human touch. It's time for a quick reality check. So the crucial point is this. Everything we've talked about sounds like pure magic, but we absolutely need a reality check here. Because as amazing as these tools are, they are not flawless push-button solutions. Game developer Dog's Dream points out a really valuable lesson. He says, AI tools should be seen as creative partners rather than full replacements for artists. And man, that is such an important takeaway, especially for kids just starting out with these tools. AI is currently best for rapid prototyping. It helps you sketch out your ideas, test if the game is actually fun, and build the core experience at lightning speed. But it lacks the deep intentionality and the soul that only a human creator can inject. Need some proof? Just look at the friction points our creators faced. DeepMotion AI, which is an animation tool, not only produced pretty jittery animations for Dog's Dream, it actually forgot his account mid-session and literally gaslit him about his own email. Cloud Code frequently sent NPCs just running straight off the edges of the map, which meant Matt Wolf had to step in and troubleshoot the logic bugs himself. And Matt also had to jump into traditional Photoshop to manually fix the jacket colors of his characters generated by Leonardo AI, simply because the AI couldn't keep them consistent from frame to frame. The human touch, that manual cleanup, your specific creative direction, that is still absolutely mandatory. Which leaves us with a final, pretty provocative question. Will AI eventually generate polished, massive AAA games entirely on its own, or will human creative vision always be the ultimate cheat code? Look, whether you are a seasoned industry developer or a 10-year-old sitting at the kitchen table bringing your very first imagination to life, the tools have never, ever been more accessible. You are the director now. The old barriers are totally gone. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. And hey, I highly encourage you to go out there, start prompting, and start playing.